show you is the Observe, Reflect, Question protocol, which is what the Library of Congress, what we worked on. But it's so, again, it's like inquiry. Like, this is nothing new at all. And it's similar to the visual thinking strategy, if any of you have used that, especially it's a protocol that's used with museums and art quite a bit. Or the DIE, which is the Describe, Interpret, Evaluate protocol, if you've done cultural competency work. It's all very similar. So it's this idea that you are using artifacts, primary sources, or photographs, and then you go through the cycle where there's observe, reflect, and question. And there's no correct order. I teach at primary, lower school, or elementary level, so I changed the language to see, think, wonder. And I think investing the time to really make quality wonderings helps the research process so much because it is authentic learning. If I'm truly wondering about something and I truly want the answer, I'm going to work hard to learn the tools to find the answers I want. So this is the more formalized structure of it, where you ask students to identify no details, you encourage them to generate and test hypotheses about the source, where did this come from, what's going on, why did someone make this, what's happening in this picture, and then you invite them to ask questions that lead to more observations and reflections. What more do I want to know? Where can I find this information? I like to do the observe and reflect as a collaborative group for the students, and I find it's very impactful to have them do some silent reflection with their questions. And then you can rejoin. It's really how you would want to design it. So when I came back from the Institute, I thought, how am I going to use this at my school? I'm a big believer also in that when you get the chance to go somewhere and learn something new, bring it back and use it and share it. Not everyone's going to do it. You're going to get a third, probably, or interested in a third who are like, that's nice, and then a third like, I really could care less, and, you know, in an honest way in terms of your faculty. But I was able to partner with our third grade curriculum. This is, again, state-based, but they were studying the Japanese internment. Is everyone fairly familiar with the Japanese internment? Okay. Can you raise your hands if you know what the Japanese, okay. Just quickly, it's a time period in history where after Pearl Harbor was bombed, an executive order was signed in February 1942 and demanded the relocation of U.S. citizens with Japanese ancestry from the coast of the West Coast and put them in what is termed internment camps, but were detention centers. It's a part of our history that I think our country is still grappling with. We were really curious. Much of the publishing was around California's internment camps, but as a state that was impacted and had an actual history connection, we were curious about what happened in Oregon. So it was broadening their unit to make it a local connection. So what I did is we had photographs that I'd taken from the Library of Congress that the students looked at only the image and came up with questions and wonderings. I didn't tell them it was in Oregon. I didn't give them any context around it. I intentionally chose photographs that depicted children. I intentionally picked photographs that may look joyful. And I also picked photographs that seemed, if you're in Oregon, you know that this is to eastern Oregon and that it's the plains. So questions, right? Like what's going on here? And then they would work in groups, usually I pair in groups of 3, and they would study the photographs, come up with their wonderings, and then we would talk later about what the history part was. And the history part, just briefly, is that Oregon had a different program after people were moved to what was called the relocation center, and it basically was a holding ground at the racetrack. They could opt to go to Eastern Oregon to a town called Mesa, NYSSA, and they could work for farmers and not be necessarily in a camp. It was more of a mobile camp. So it was a different option. In Oregon, that was part of Oregon's history that still isn't frequently talked about. A couple other studies that I worked on that were really, again, impactful, especially creating those aha moments and building empathy, was I partnered with Tina with the 5th grade unit. She wanted to broaden our immigration study a lot because we really just focus on Ellis Island. We broadened it to include images of Angel Island, which was the entry point for many Chinese immigrants. We broadened it to include current immigration imagery. And then we also made the choice to talk about enslaved people and that history. And this was probably one of the most powerful images we shared with the students. And we gave it to them and let them study it. They were 5th graders, they had context around this. Is anyone familiar with this? Okay. So this, you can go to the link, it's from the British Library. This is a diagram of the Brooks slave ship that ran from, I think, Liverpool to the Gold Coast and then to Jamaica. And I think it was 454 people who it shows how they were packed onto the slave ship. So the students really responded to this. It also, the one thing that's also to know about, I actually want to read this, is this is one of the images, because I do believe images can change history, especially when I did the civil rights movement work. But with this one, it's and this is directly from the additional notes of the British Library, if you look it up. By April 1787, the diagram was widely known across the UK, appearing in newspapers, pamphlets, books, and even posters in coffee houses and pubs. An image had rarely been used as a propaganda tool in this way. It had been used as an abolitionist tool to show. And Thomas Clarkson commented in his history of the rise, progress, and accomplishment of the abolition of the African slave trade, 1808, that the print seemed to make an instantaneous impression of horror upon all who saw it, and was therefore instrumental in consequence of the wide circulation given it in serving the curse of the injured Africans. So the kids really, this was an incredible aha moment for them. And then going back, oops, sorry. We also, I also created, we were talking a lot about what does protest look like? How do you what are the different forms of protest? So we gathered images from different protests around the world and had a display up where the kids just interacted very easily. One post-it note, one wondering about it, and had it up. You didn't have to put your name on it. Here's my wondering about this picture. And then 2 weeks later, after we gathered questions, we put the information right next to the photograph to tell them what the story of this photograph was. And then I did a Welcome Back to School one with schools around the world and schools over history. So that all meant like, what, 1 minute? Okay. It means I'm supposed to wrap it up. There's resources here. One other fun thing to do is if you have, how many of you read the New York Times, what's going on in this picture? It's great. It's on our learning network. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, I would love to talk more. If any of you are interested, grab me over lunch, but I'm excited about this work. Thanks.
Thank you, Lara. It's choosing o'clock. Okay. So we've got. Let me just show people the front 3 slides from the workshops for the session before lunch today. So these are 3 mini presentations to summarize the 3 workshops that are taking place in the next session. Gamification in the library, I think around them. We've got audio books, Out of Sight, Out of Mind by Sue. And we've got engaging engaging picture books and engaging future readers by Sweep. So let's go in that order with some quick 5-minute presentations to let you know what's upcoming, and then it'll be a show of hands to let me know which rooms we're going to choose. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Adriana. I'm here in KL. I'm actually a technology coach. Yet. I'm going to do gamification in the library. This is something that you are already doing. Every time you get a prize out or you acknowledge something that a child's done, you are using gamification. I just wanted to use my time to perhaps show you some apps and some online tools that you could use with your students. I also will have a few games, of course, but I'd like to take some of my workshop time for you to actually create some online material. If I know anything about conferences, I lead with fantastic ideas and then the world of teaching gets in my way and I never follow it up. So part of my workshop will be actually creating some material for you to use. Thank you.